Calypso conversations this morning because it's very important for us to celebrate Calypso History Month in fine style. This gentleman has been on the show, several times before at this point. Omari Ashby joins us on set. Good morning, Omari.
Morning, Ruckus.
How are you doing?
I did, It's Calypso History Month,
It's Calypso History Month. Now, last time we had you on the show for Calypso History Month, we kind of went into some of the history. We started at the beginning and we was coming up the road, and of course, we only have a little bit of time when we're doing this, right? So I want us to jump to the branches, because Calypso is the root. Calypso is the foundation of it all. But we've seen over the years that we've had plenty things that branch out of Calypso, and I want us to be able to explore some of those things.
Yeah, we can do that. And generally, the root of the art form, which is that griot tradition, that tradition of the Jali, that kind of mastery of words would have not just happened in the Calypso. So if you think in Calypso, you also have to think of the carnival characters that would have used words and lyrical mastery. So you're talking about the Peregrinade, you're talking about the Midnight Robber, stuff like that. And the reason that is important is because that would lead you to Rapso, right? And which is one of the branches that, and we mark that as a Rapso man. I had to start by Rapso first.
I figured that's what I was going to do anyway.
Yeah. So we're talking about 1969. We mark that year as the year of the first recording of Rapso, although it would not have been named Rapso in that time. Lancelot Kibu Lane would have done the song Blow Away. And that is a marker we look at as the first Rapso, and therefore it went on to be developed by the Cold Concrete Network, later to be known as the Network Rapso Rhythm Band. But you also had the Bad Poet Malik, you had Brother Chet Sweo, you had a couple of people on the ground who was doing it as well, as that kind of rhythm poetry style that was more based in just drums and your work. And then, of course, the network band started to add instrumentation, bass, the steel pan, that kind of stuff, and it developed throughout the 70s. And people would have known of it in terms of a significant way in the 80s with songs like Free Up Africa from Carrega Mandela, You Had Tonight Is the Night, people ain't taking that. And then the turn, 1992, you had the Kiss Kitty Caravan, Aussie American Homefront, Kindred, Ataclan coming out of that kind of stuff.
When those guys were doing it, when it changed from Brother Resistance and being the forerunners, and you have the younger generation coming up, the Kindreds, the Ataclan, were they calling it Rapso at that point in time?
Yeah.
Were you calling it Rapso?
Yeah, of course. We were just there's a distinction that the late Nolu Taluma Simba would say. They came up in the time of the strike camps and marching in the road, and we want money back. That was their basis of coming into the fore Rapso. And for our generation, we would have come in with scratching and the hip-hop influence all those kind of things. Yeah. So that would have been the separation. While we didn't march in the streets in the 70s, we had a sense of it because we were deeply ingrained in the history of the thing. But we also had that influence coming from the US, coming out of Jamaica as well too. So we kind of tried to smush those things together and create that. Right?
But isn't that also part of what we always do with Calypso?
Always.
Calypso, we take it and smush it with everything else.
Yeah, Calypso is known for pulling whatever is the pop music of the day.
Yeah.
Right? So it would have been the big band song at one point in time, and which is a good segue into one of the other branches, soca. Right? And the story that is told is Shorty Eye, and in the East Indian and African rhythms mixed, and we get soca. That is one story. I always tell people, history is not neat like that. So Shorty Eye is one of the streams that would have led us to soca, and certainly one of the people who would have contributed to the naming of that particular genre.
Right.
But you cannot talk about that without talking about King Wellington, who would have been doing experiments in the turn of 1969 into 70. If you listen to Garrett Bongs from Lord Nelson, you will hear an influence of the music. And these guys were more trying to mix because they were outside in America. So they hear soul, funk, that kind of thing. So they're trying to know. And then, of course, you can't talk soca without talking shadow.
Right. Because the baseline change
everything. And shadow is significant because of all the people who could be credited in putting into soca. Shadow style is the only style that you could hear up to today. There are still people who try to imitate what Shadow was doing to this day. So whereas you will not necessarily hear a shorty style soca now or a maestro style soca now, shadow style seem to have been almost timeless in terms of people, because when people hear a song, they say, hey, that's shadow vibes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But all these people...
tell me, I want to break that down a little bit, because we're saying that, right? And I understand what you're saying, but everybody mightn't understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a shadow vibes and a shorty vibes?
Well, if I could tell you that, right, I'd be having hits every year. I'd hit from June to June. Shadow style... Shadow style really is, when you analyze it, he brought... When you listen to the
complex simplicity.
Yes, and also that Tobago energy, the tambourine music, that what used to play on the fiddle in the tambourine style kind of band, right? Shadow kind of put it. Sometimes you hear it in the keys, sometimes you hear it in the bass. So that you hear dum 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 dum, right?
Yeah.
So he brought that kind of energy to the music, and it seems to somehow be timeless. No, that is not to take anything away from Shorty, Maestro, and also the musicians. Sometimes we ignore the musicians in the birth of the soca music, and the musicians like Pelham Goddard and the session musicians. His name is slipping me now. Robin Imam Shaw. All these people who would have been doing work behind the scenes and who have a story to tell about soca being sound of the Southern Caribbean, SOCA, right? And all these. So I am not here to define who should get the credit, but I'm certainly saying that there's never one person generally credited for creating something. We like that in
the world, generally.
In the world, right? We say
we like to
for the light bulb, and when you have several people contributing to it. So again, I don't want to take anything away from Shorty, because certainly in declaring we're going to change the accent of Carnival to the groovy bacchanal, he made a significant contribution to what we know as soca today. But we cannot ignore all the other experimentation that was happening at the time, and the people who would have significantly contributed, right? We can't talk about branches and not talk about raga soca, not talk about chutney soca.
But raga soca and rap soca is not similar?
It's similar, but when people sometimes, when they think raga soca, they start with Bungie. But I like to go a little further back, where you had people like Bali, Red Plastic Bag interfering with it, but also significantly Lord Laro, who was a Trini based in Jamaica, doing that mix of Calypso and reggae, right? So you had to kind of look back again to see the foundation.
I would even put General Grant in that category too.
General Grant would have been, but he would have come after Laro and Bali with the Maxi Jam and all them things, right?
Yeah.
And of course...
But the Maxi Jam, all right, so if you talk about Maxi Dub, right?
Yeah.
Maxi Dub from Bali, you consider that raga soca?
Well,
or is a Calypso that playing on the
But
the
musically, he started to interfere with it. Red Plastic Bag and commenting on it is like... It's the typical trick they use in Calypso. I'm not going to sing about.
And then I sing about it.
Right? I ain't going and say, right?
Yeah.
So in criticizing the raga, they put it in their music because they know, hey...
Everybody like it anyway.
Yeah, right? So it's there. And then you have...
Chutney. Talk to me about the chutney.
So with chutney, the name that you had to call is Sundar Popo. Right? Now, in calling Sundar Popo, again, you can't just call he, but he's the man who really lead and light, and who I know, right? As a young person, when I listen to Nani and Nana and all them things, and Kai Sebani and all these songs, right? You get that. And for years, he would have been campaigning, and then it started to come in a little more. And I think one of the significant markers is somebody who, like Ricky Jai, jumping the thing, and who wasn't necessarily doing what he was doing soca, you know, and then he kind of added a flavor to it.
Let me tell them Holy Latam and Geshka.
And give me soca, and of course, which significantly, and people like Drupati, which was like Drupati Roll Up the Tassan thing, which mind you was written by Castman, right? And so you had these things that coming into the music. Now, I always tell people, while Calypso is the foundation and we have all these variant things, it is really to identify, but we shouldn't use it to separate. And we have a way we like to separate,
we love a separation.
Where we talk about, hey, this is Rapso, and this is Calypso, and this is soca, and thing. Yeah, it's good to identify these things, but it come like, all right, you have these children in our house, and how really do you want to treat those children with equity and love them just the same?
All of them should get the same love.
And understand that there's family too, right? And so the separation as somebody who researches this thing, it pains me sometimes. Even as a practitioner, when I first came into the music, and people start to say, well, all you're doing rap, so I think I never really, I mean, I understand that I'm doing rap, but I never really look at it as something so vastly separate from Calypso or soca, you know, in that we had to be ostracized or
I mean, but if we look at the same thing, like I was speaking to Dr. Otley just now about the competition, right? How much rap so you see in the Monarch competition?
Yeah.
How much other of the subgenres do we see in this? And it has to be. And it seems as though it needs to be authentically Calypso to get into those.
Remember again, that kind of separation is what led to the creation of the Soca Monarch.
Exactly.
Because they used to be putting Super Blue Boy at the time sometimes with brilliant song. They play him last.
And he mash up the place.
And not only that,
the songs are lyrically potent and the musically potent and they fit checking all the boxes and he's still getting last. Why?
And so because we have this idea that Calypso is only Prada Bada, Prada de die die, right? That is legitimate for Makai, but we have to understand that you have social commentary in the soca, right? You have humor in the soca, you have nation building in the soca, you understand? So we had to kind of start to take a different view. Yes, these things are separate. Yes, they have the markers, but when we're looking at the art form and what it contributes, I don't think that the segregation them heavy walls should be up still, you know?
I mean, I firmly agree with that, and I don't know how we're breaking them down. Well, because they've been cemented. It's not like they make out of apply.
Yeah, but I think it have a couple of artists in the mix who have that capability. You know, you have a new set, and you have a set that they're young, but they've been campaigning a lot. So people like Mr. Shaq.
Yeah.
Mr. Shaq does walk the road between.
Well, yeah, he break down the wall.
Right,
no
Calypso and soca. Shalan Bailey. Shalan Bailey is just as comfortable mashing up a dance as in the tent, and then you had the younger artists. When you listen to somebody like Voice storytelling, right? He could be telling you about being drunk, but when he done tell you about being drunk, the picture he created, you know, and even the social commentary, you know, Far From Finish, you know, You's a Winner, them is inspirational songs, regardless you could be jumping up and whining to them. So we had to kind of pay attention, and them youth and them, and I just single out Voice, but there are plenty of them that,
of course,
you know what I mean? Nadia Batson, that song, when you're looking for things, she's the whole right, that whole market.
Yeah, Nadia's proved herself to be an exceptional songwriter. It doesn't matter the genre.
And people could look at that song as a light song, but when you look lyrically at that song, it's a big
double entendre. It's a beautiful double entendre. Omari, unfortunately, we are out of time yet again.
Yeah.
I feel we gotta do a part 3. That's all. Thank you very much for joining us and sharing some of your knowledge. And we hope to continue the conversation again because we're not gonna stop celebrating Calypso.
Definitely. Good to be here.
Yeah, man. Blessings. All right, guys, we take a quick break and come back with more inside the Now Morning Show. We still have plenty more in store. It's only 7 o'clock. Well, 8 minutes past 7. Stay tuned.